One. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, six-figure PT community. Today we have my good friend Kevin DeGroot on our Winning Wednesday interview. He is a cash-based physical therapist, has his practice T0 Physio, and today we're going to ask him a few questions, kind of go through his journey. He's going to let us know what he's doing on a daily basis, what advice he has for you as a new grad PT. And I want to thank you so much, man, for being on the show tonight. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm super excited to get this conversation going because I know you're going to drop some fire, some wisdom. And if anyone has any questions throughout the entire live, please drop them below. We'll be happy to answer them. If you watch the replay, go ahead and drop them anyways because we'll answer them later on as well. So again, man, thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate it. So Kevin, quick background, glimpse into your life, where you started, maybe how many years you are out of school, and talk to us a little bit about you.
Perfect. So I'm in Denver, Colorado. I feel like I'm one of the few people who has lived here for more than 2 years. I graduated from Regis, which is in Denver, and that's actually why I came out to Colorado. And then, I graduated in 2014. So I've been out of school for 4 years, a little over 4 years. I'm on my third job. Well, technically fourth job because I've done it, I've done home health, I've done outpatient ortho ×2, and then I started my own practice. So I kind of did all the wrong things when I first started. I didn't stay at my first job for a full year. I took a terrible job to start because I thought that I wanted to make more money and just realized that it was not really the best option for me.
Tell us what your first job was and why it was so terrible. What was it?
So I got a job, and I found it on Craigslist, which a lot of clinics advertise on Craigslist. So that's not the biggest deal in the world. And the way that it was set up was, I got paid an hourly rate plus a certain dollar per patient that I saw. So the incentive for me to see more clients was there. And as a new grad, especially in Colorado, it's one of the lower paying states. So I had friends who got offered, $45,000 a year to work after graduation.
That's crazy. That is mind blowing.
That's insane.
So we talk about
what's the cost of living out there though?
When I first graduated, it wasn't that bad. Just for reference, I moved into a neighborhood right after graduation that we were renting, and the guy bought it, probably 6 months before we started renting, and for $270,000, and he just sold it for $530,000, and that's within 4 years. So It's increased in value, doubled. Like most of these houses have doubled in value in the last 4 years. And so,
but the market's gone up a little bit, so I digress, but go back on your path.
Yeah. So, I saw all my friends who were getting offered these jobs making, anywhere between $24 and $30 an hour. And I saw this clinic offering, upwards of $38, $39 an hour if I was busy. And I was like, man, this is great. I'm a really motivated person. I knew right away that I wanted to own my own practice at some point. And so everything was kind of lining up. I had this conversation with the owner about how, he taught running courses all around the country. And I was super excited about that because that was what I was interested in. I work primarily with triathletes and runners now. So I was like, I'm going to learn from this guy. I'm going to have freedom and flexibility to make more money. This is perfect. And then within 2 weeks of being at his practice, I was 100% by myself. It was me and a receptionist. And I thought that I had the wrong email address for this guy because I would email him and ask him questions and I wouldn't get responses. So it was a husband and a wife who owned this practice. And I would email him, no response, email her. And then like one of them would come in every once in a while, like, hey, did you get my email? Like, oh yeah, well, here, this is what you should do. Like, oh, okay. So within about 6 weeks of starting there, I was like, this was a huge mistake.
That was your first job, right?
Say that again.
That was your first job out of school?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah. So, I graduated in May, and by the end of June, I was 100% independent in a PT practice.
Wow.
It was, just me and a receptionist. So that was a blast.
Yeah, that's a learn.
How many patients were you seeing an hour?
I had 30 minutes with each person. So it wasn't like it's not like a mill PT that some people experience where, you're seeing 3, 4, 5 clients every hour. That wasn't the issue. It was just, I didn't feel comfortable being put in this position where I was having these complex cases come up, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And
you had no guidance or mentorship. Yeah.
And the three of us were talking about mentorship before we got on, and at that point I didn't have the mentorship that I do now, where I knew who to reach out to. So I would reach out to some of my professors from Regis, and they were helpful, but they also have busy jobs, and they're not trying to spend 10 hours a week answering my questions.
Did any of them stop to tell you and say, listen, Kevin, I don't think this is a good job for you?
That was one of the frustrating things, is when that job finally was done, I talked to a bunch of people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, we've heard terrible things about that practice. Why didn't anybody tell me?
Thanks.
Why didn't anybody tell me that this was a terrible place to work? And so I was a little bit irritated. It was.
So what attracted you to that job in the first place? Like what was that initial thing that you're like, hey, like I'd like to work here?
So a number of things. That's kind of what's scary about it. Like I said, he taught courses around the U.S. on running form and running injuries and all that kind of stuff. So I liked that.
Right.
He had experience with applied functional science, and that was my last clinical, was with several different AFS fellows. So I liked the fact that he knew kind of where I was coming from in that. I liked the fact that I had some autonomy. I didn't want to have somebody just, breathing down my neck all the time. Mm-hmm. I liked the neighborhood that it was in, and those were the primary things.
Yeah.
I felt like, but at the same time, you want that mentorship. You need that as a new grad.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can relate to you on that, because I didn't have that either. I was promised that in the interview. I was sold. I was like, this is going to be great. I can't wait. And then you get there and it's not the case. And that's awful. It's awful.
Yeah. So Joseph and I spoke about this topic as well. Like, not initially, we think we know what we want, but we don't sit down and take the time to actually like reflect and okay, this is what I'm looking for in my first job. A lot of us, we just don't do that. We're just so desperate to start working right out of school. And what happens is that we fall into that trap. And luckily for you, you realize quickly, hey, I need to get out of here. But some people say that, but they never leave, and they're there stuck for years and years and years. They burn out after about a year, 2 years, and they hate the profession. So I think this is an important experience that you had, because it's probably one that you needed at the time to get you to where you're at now. But I think it'd be beneficial for our new grad PTs to understand why it's so important to ask the right questions at the interview, know what you're looking for, things like that. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's interesting. You compliment me on getting out of there. I was trying to find a new job, and at that point I was like, hey, I'm 9 months out of school, and I built a practice that went from seeing 45 clients a week to around 70 clients a week. And so maybe I could do this for myself because it seems ridiculous that I'm slaving away for somebody else. And I had a conversation with a soccer club in the area, and that was on a Thursday. And Friday, somehow it had gotten back to my boss, and he walked in and he's like, "Get out of here! I'm done with you." So that it wasn't just
Wow.
you talk about these people who you look at scarcity mindset, and that is a prime example of that.
Huh.
And I could talk for hours about what type of questions should you ask people when it comes to interviewing, and that type of thing matters so much for new grads because that's not taught in schools.
Give us your number one question that you would ask in an interview.
I think the turnover rate for physical therapists is a huge one.
Define that.
Why did the last person leave? In your words, why did the last person leave? Or like ask the question.
That question, I never thought about that one.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
So I think also like looking at it and saying what kind of two sides to this, but what have people done in the past that have led you to not feel like they're good employees? What are some of the things that they've done or that other people have done in the past that you looked at them and said like, man, that's not the type of employee that I want to have. And then the more positive way of saying it is like, now what are some of the things that the people who've been really successful in your company, what have they done that have set themselves apart and made them successful in your mind? And I think if you look at those two questions, you can learn a lot about somebody. So as I asked those questions after I got the job, and I told this guy like, hey, I really want to own my own practice someday. And like, I would love to learn from you. And he talked about all these people that have tried to steal his clinic in the past. And so that's when I started to think like, oh man, like you're not in it for any other reason besides like protecting your little egg. And I think if I would have asked that question, hey, what have you had negatively, impact your relationships with your therapist in the past? Opens my eyes to not only like not do those things, but then I can also see kind of what their mindset is.
It exposes them. Yeah. and they might not even they might skew the truth a little bit. But you can, if you are good at facial expressions, you know when someone's like trying to hold you back or might not be telling the full truth. But that right there is a question that no one's asking, and a lot of people would be frightened to even have that question asked if there is someone like you experience, an employer like you experience. So it's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
It's so important to take care of your employees. So important. If you're in a company and you're waking up going to work because you have to pay the bills, that's not a life you want to live. No. You know what I mean? You got to work somewhere where you enjoy going to work, where you're taken care of, you're given incentive, right?
Yeah.
So
I called my parents like 4 weeks into this job, and I was like, well, it's not my forever job. Let's just say that. And I, looking back, I learned so many valuable lessons, and that's something that I like. Obviously my pride was hurt, and I was frustrated, and I was irritated, and it's never good to have something like that happen to you, or like it never feels good. It can be a good thing, but I look back on that now, and it was such a valuable lesson for me to learn. And I think a lot of us look at these jobs that are less than optimal, and we say like, I've never learned anything from that. I can't take anything from that negative experience. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. I've learned way more from the crappy decisions that I've made than the best decisions that I've made. And so I dusted myself off, and I mean, after thinking honestly, like, if this is what PT is, I don't want to have any part of it. I just went and spent over $100,000 on school, and now I'm thinking, like, if that's what it is, I don't want to do that. And had a conversation with one of my roommates, like, hey, is your company hiring? Because my first experience with PT was that bad that I don't know if this is really what I want to do long term.
Wow.
But
these are things that we speak about how serious it can be. If you don't, number one, obviously, like the things we spoke about, like ask the right questions. Look for that not, and again, we say perfect job as a new grad PT. But having that awareness to understand, like, okay, this is what's going on. It sucks, but I'm in the middle of a lot of growth right now. And if I can take everything that sucks about this place, learn from it, and do the opposite, like, you've won. You really
definitely won.
So it's all about the mindset that you have towards the experiences that you're currently, like, living through. But I really believe that you needed this, and it's actually better that it happened this early on, like right out of school.
100%.
It would have happened like 5 years from now, you know?
Yeah. You know, the story of, like, the frog getting boiled is, I feel like, is what's happening to the vast majority of our profession. Is I got burned right away. I knew that it was crappy, so I jumped out. And whereas a lot of people, it's just, they slowly turn up the heat and they don't ever realize that it's a crappy situation until it's far too late.
Right.
And then
Todd, I love that quote. Sorry, I just had to.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, you know, we have to look at these things, and we have to say, I'm not comfortable with this. I think we do have to take real assessments on a fairly regular basis and say, like, is this what I want? Is this what's best for me? Is this what's best for my clients? What I finally took away from that, and now that I have my own business, is if I don't like it, also probably means that a lot of my clients don't like it too.
Kind of like that mentality. If it's like, if you have to think about it and you don't think it's a good idea, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
I feel like mine and your experience as our first job was very similar. Like, I stayed in it longer than you did for certain reasons. Oh, you got fired. That's right. You got fired.
Congratulations, right? It's like,
you're lucky. You're lucky. I wish I would have got fired earlier.
It was the best.
Oh, man. But again, like, you got a lot of good things from it, because you said you brought that practice up from 45. What was it? 45 visits a week to 75 visits a week.
Mm-hmm.
And no appreciation. No appreciation.
Gave you that confidence to be like, man, like, actually, you know what? I can probably do this on my own.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Again, you know?
Let me ask you, what steps did you take to do that as a new grad, to provide value? You were providing value to your employer, right? Almost doubling the number of patients. And as a new grad, how did you do that?
I cared about people. Like, I don't understand. I don't really know if I have any other better way of saying it than that. I think that has to be the place we start. And, you know, I gave people extra time when I had it. You know, my appointment's only 30 minutes, but I don't have anybody right after you. So I'm going to try and spend a little extra time with you to help solve your problem. And, you know, yeah, I probably could have done charts, and I probably could have done all these other things, but it's an extra 10 minutes, and it makes the world of difference to people. And what's unfortunate about that is so many of us get put in these situations where we don't have the ability to spend any extra time with people because we're so slammed that we get stuck constantly, you know, being behind and rushing. So that's number one, is I just spent extra time with people. I would send emails to people following up on different things. I asked them about not just PT related stuff. I'm terrible with names, like awful with names.
What's my
But
name, Kevin?
Angel.
Hey, it's on the. Come on.
It's on. It's literally on there.
It doesn't say it on my. Well, I'm on the phone. So.
But I'm, for some reason, really good at just ridiculous details of people's lives, and so I use that to my advantage. And I ask people about the like ridiculous things in their life, and that means something to people. Like when you ask about their weekend, like it should not just be a conversation starter. It should also be something that like, hey, you told me that you were going to like such and such concert this weekend. How was it? That shows that you actually listened to somebody, as opposed to like, oh, he was just making conversation while he was, busy doing something else. That's, those types of things are probably the most important.
That a lot of new grad physical therapists don't focus on. We think we're trained that, it's the skills. That's what people care about, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person I've spoken with, whether they realize it or not, finally understands that it's about taking care of the people and actually caring about them as a person, not a patient, not a joint,
Yeah.
And that is massive. So a lot of the fears that we have as new grad PTs, that we don't know enough, or that we're going to get something wrong, those fears go away when you're just truly just taking care of someone as a person. Because that is what people want, is they want to feel like they're loved, like they're being taken care of by someone who actually wants them to get better completely,
And that's a skill in its own self. You know what I mean? When you care about somebody that you just basically met, your new patient, and you show that compassion and empathy towards them, that's going to skyrocket you. You're going to win every time. Yeah. I mean, I even had this conversation with a patient I'm very, very close with today. I've been treating her not even a month yet, and we've become like this. And I we were talking about it today as I'm treating her, and she goes, I've been to physical therapy, in my life, but nobody's ever taken the time to really find out about my life, find out about like what I'm going through. I know her whole family story. She knows my whole family story. Boundaries, of course, but at the same time, you need to know when to open up and when to not. You got to find those barriers to break through, and you have to go for it. You have to. You have to be able. I know they teach you in school, don't be, too close with your patients. Don't Facebook friend them. Don't this and that. Screw that. People are real. We're real people. Right. I'm going to have a beer on Sunday Fun Day. And if my patient sees it, they're going to be like, how was Sunday? And I'll be like, good. How was your Sunday? Shit like that. Like, they want to know you're a real person. We're not just doctors. We are real people. We do real people things. We're not just in our office every day working. So it's very important for people to realize that. I believe that's my philosophy. Yeah. My patients love that.
So true.
I know this is geared towards new grads particularly, but everybody that I talk to, as far as mentorship goes, that's starting a practice, I tell them, let your clients be a part of something. You're not just a part of their life, but they're also a part of your story, your growth, your development, your establishing a practice, your whatever your profession is, or like whatever you want to do. If it's just be an employee somewhere, that's fine. But let somebody be a part of your story. Let somebody be a part of your growth. And, I've legitimately cried in front of my clients, and I've had a lot of people cry in front of me, and that's totally fine because I'm a human. And
there you go, human.
And I, my mom passed away 3 months into me owning my practice. And so I was back and forth from Colorado to California a ton of different times. And my clients at that time saw me as a different type of a person because of that. And I still have really good relationships with those people, and they would do anything for me because they saw me struggle through like going back and forth to California to be in a hospital with my mom. And that's something like you can't just become robotic in how you do things.
You got me in the feels, Kevin.
Yeah.
And like I've talked about like obviously like you have boundaries. Yes, you have boundaries. I don't tell people like here's how much money I'm making and all that kind of stuff. But it's like here's my vision. Here's what I want to accomplish because I think that this is the best for you. And the people who are coming to see you obviously buy into what you're doing. And I had a client. I'm seriously considering starting a gym and like really going for it and growing. And I had a client who was like, man, I just wish that I could write you a check for like $50,000 and just say, I believe in you. I want you to be successful. Go for it.
You need to get an angel investor.
Right? But
we have one right here. We have an angel right here. So let's ask.
I wish I could invest. I'd invest in all of us, baby.
and it's like we're taught to not be emotional. We're taught to not talk about certain things with our clients. We're taught to
it's awful. It's you're on the right path with all of that. And it's
and it's like who's going to be right alongside of me when I win is my clients who are winning because I'm offering them something so much better than what's being offered everywhere else. And so it's not a selfish thing to talk about it. It's like I really do think that this is the best for all of us, and I want to bring you along with me, and just be authentic.
Yeah,
and people can feel that. People can feel the authenticity. For sure.
Yeah, it's about transparency too, and like you said, they feel like they're a part of something. When people feel like they're a part of something, and this goes to your patients, and also eventually when you have your own employees, when they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and you're able to relay that mission to them, and they feel like that is their mission as well, they're willing to do anything for you. And that's the point that you need your patients to get to as well. That is when, like you said, they'll be the ones that take you up to whatever it is that you want to get to.
Yep.
They're the ones that will take you there. So take care of your patients, and they'll take care of you. Which I think that's amazing, man. So tell us a little bit about your actual your business. I know it's a T0 Physio. Give us some insight into what you're currently doing. How long you've been practicing on your own for? What kind of, I know you work with like triathletes and runners. I know you have a few side projects with that as well, which is really cool. So I just want you to just be transparent and tell like new grad PTs like what you've been doing and what they're capable of doing as well if they wanted to. Just in all the opportunities that are out there for them to win as well.
Yeah. So from my terrible first job, then went and got a job working at it was a partnership clinic between a physician group and a PT group. So they tried to market themselves that they weren't a POPs, but upon further evaluation, they were definitely a POPs. Again, I've learned a lot, and so I was
define POPs for those that don't know. Some people might.
So it was a physician-owned physical therapy clinic. So because of the ways that all the laws go, you are not technically allowed to, you're not supposed to have POPs, but they get away with it for a lot of different reasons. I've heard of clinics who are, so there are physician-owned practices, physician-owned groups that then subcontract with staffing agencies outside of this state and then staff those therapists to work in their clinics, and they still can bill under the physician's codes, but they're not actually staffed by the physician. So my check never said anything from the physician, so it was like legal and okay. But it's like it's amazing the ways that people get around it.
Sounds a little fraudulent.
Well, yeah, it's like when you have to pay lawyers like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make sure that you like found the right loophole, there's probably something still wrong with it.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, I digress. So I went and actually ended up getting to direct that clinic, which was interesting. And then 2 years ago, I finally got to that point where I was like, all right, I believe that there's a better way to do this. I want to do something different. How do I get there? And so I started to put together the pieces, and I got a job working home health, and found a gym to rent space from. And we all take business classes. Almost all of us take business classes when we're in PT school. And I remember, I probably have it on my computer somewhere, our financial report, or like, our business, our business plan. And it was like, we just lost her.
Oh no, we lost her.
So I'm just going to keep talking.
Yeah. Keep on talking. Figure out a way to get her on.
Yeah, I had this business plan on my computer where it was like, all the equipment that I had to buy and all this stuff. And it was like $200,000 loan that I was supposed to take from the bank, per how I learned how to do things in school.
Man.
And then I started to actually get out of that mindset. And I started watching videos that Aaron LeBauer was doing, and Greg Todd was doing, and Paul Goff was doing. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can do this for a lot less money than just $200,000 to get my own space and to wait for all the insurance contracts to go and all that kind of stuff. So I started my practice for like $4,200, including first and last month's rent and all my equipment and everything.
Welcome back.
Sorry, my phone died. Back at it though.
Yeah.
So I got that success life,
Yeah. So I had this practice that I started for, including liability insurance, including I have a high-low table, I have a room and a gym, I have all that kind of stuff, and it was like somewhere around $4,200.
That's amazing.
Which is great, right? So
good, yeah.
I took the leap because it was not a very big leap, contrary to what most people think that it's going to need to be. And I started with my home health job and also had, my side gig, T0 Physio. And I just really started to see it grow, started to see clients come in. I went from like one client my first week to 4 clients my second week to I got to the point in August of that first year, so 8 months in, where I was busy enough that I could justify going 100% independent and quit my home health job.
That's amazing.
Which I will say is not like 100% normal. I know a lot of people who struggle, not because they're doing things that are wrong, but a lot of people who struggle a lot longer than that. But also because I knew what I wanted to do 4 years out or 5 years out, or however, I joined a tri team immediately after I graduated from PT school, and I met all of the people on the tri team and just built relationships with those people because I knew that at some point I was probably going to want to work with triathletes, and that was the best way for me to know them, was to be on a team with them. And so, like, lesson number 1, if you want to start something, like figure it out who you want to work with and engage with them now. Even if you don't have a business, engage with them now, because you never know at what point you are going to want to start a business or go that direction, and actually need to have relationships.
Never too late.
Let me ask you, what other outlets would you suggest that you can engage with if you can't do it in person, like in a tri group, or what other, give some advice for us.
So I have a Facebook page that's Triathlon Injuries, has people from like 40 different countries on it.
Wow.
I started
How long have you had it? Yeah.
Since February.
Wow.
and I haven't really done anything truly to try to help it grow since the first month. So it's really been a lot of organic growth, a lot of people asking their friends to be in it.
Bless you.
And
Thank you.
Social media is a great way to engage with people. Be willing to answer questions. Like I have a phone conversation with somebody after I'm done with this. He's a part of another tri group that I'm a part of, and he's asking about a calf strain that he's been dealing with, and I was like, "Hey, I'll hop on a phone call with you later today." Like, no worries.
Right.
He will probably never be a patient of mine. He lives 2 hours south of here. I don't care, because you never know who his friends are. He probably has friends in the Denver area, and so it's fine for me to give him 10 minutes of my time. And you really never know how it's going to pay dividends in a lot of different ways.
Provide value. Value for whoever it is, your audience, your employer. You got it. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
That is massive.
Even so this group is,
okay.
But even me offering help and posting my phone number, it's free publicity, and I'm not detracting from the group, which is, I think, a lot of what people end up getting in trouble for is they detract from the group, and they're like, "Hey, I want you to come like my page." I was like, "Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just post my comment,
right,
and people will see my name. They'll see. It's just free publicity at this point."
That's it. Yeah, and in those groups, what you're
exposure.
You're not trying to exposure. You're not trying to sell anyone on anything or take away their clients. You're just trying to provide value. If you can do that for them, like why not? If you do that for maybe, who knows, like 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, eventually it compounds to something. And again, it's not tangible. You won't see it right away. It might be a year before you see the results. You won't even know at that point that it's from that.
Nope.
But if you do that for an entire year, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day, you're going to see benefits from it eventually. It's just 100% and be consistent with it. And again, it's all about just giving value. Like, as physical therapists, we say we want to help people, but then we get out of our 8 to 5, whatever hours we work, if we're a staff PT, or even as a business owner, and then we shut off completely after that, when at least initially you have to do things like this. After that, you can have people help you with it, which is great. But you have to do whatever it takes and help as many people as you can, knowing that a lot of them are not going to pay you directly. That exchange is not going to happen right away.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I've had clients. I do discovery visits. I do discovery visits for my clinic, and I've had people who have not come back as clients, but have referred their friends to come see me.
That's okay.
Yeah, they look at it and they say, I can't afford this right now, which is fine. I, try to help them as much as I can, try to continue to build relationships with them. But they're like, I think I'm going to try some other options first. But I have this friend that I think you'd be really good for. Let me give him your number. Like, perfect. I'm fine with that. And don't just look at immediate results as the only way to win. Is like, again, it's establishing a platform and a foundation, and you'll start to see that grow, especially if you're patient.
Patience. I was just going to say that. Patience is a virtue, my friends.
Yes,
it is.
So,
it is. I had a couple questions for you. As far as what is. So I know in school, traditionally we're taught certain things that are really important to know as physical therapists. Of course, we have all the clinical skills that we need to learn to treat our patients, which is important. That's the foundation. However, I want to ask you what you personally think, and this might be different for everyone, what you personally think is maybe the number one skill new grad physical therapists need to learn. Well, first of all, they need to be aware of it, they need to learn it, and then apply it. So what's the number one skill you think is the most important? If you have a bonus one, or there's a few of them, feel free to add on to those. But what do you think? What would you say?
Can I tell a quick story first?
Please. I love stories.
I'm not the most stressed out person in the world, and I had a really good relationship with one of my professors in school who, when I graduated, he ended up being the dean at Regis. He is world-renowned foot and ankle specialist, brilliant. So if you're going to talk about anybody who is like academically the guy, it's Tom McPoyle. And
name dropping.
Yeah, so he asked me one day, we were just hanging out talking, and he's like, you don't seem that stressed. Like, what have you found to be one of the most helpful things for you in school? And I was like, Tom, I try to learn 90% of what you guys tell me I need to know. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I know that there are certain people that I knew I wanted to do outpatient ortho, and I knew that there were certain things that I needed to know. And the MCD of goniometer, it's not important for me. I can look stuff up. Google is a huge bonus to me. I did not need to know what all of these, outcome measures for pediatrics were. I don't care. So I chose to not learn those. This is a confession time. I chose to not learn those, which meant that I could actually spend more time learning the things that I actually needed to know from the clients that I wanted to work with, instead of learning all the developmental milestones for an infant. I've never worked with somebody under the age of 6, so I don't need to know those.
Right.
And if for some reason somebody asks me a question about them, this is getting into one of the most important skills that you have.
Refer.
Is say, I'm really sorry I don't know that answer, but I'm going to look it up. I'm going to find the best information to answer that question for you. So humility is a huge thing that I think a lot of new grad PTs come out and they think that they have to have all the answers. They think they have to, do all these special tests and measures and all these different things. And nope, you need to build trust with somebody right away. And if you can, as the director of a clinic, I always told my therapist, if you can have somebody walk away from your first visit and say, I trust you to help me get better, that's all you need to accomplish. If that means that all you do is have a conversation with them, great. If that means that you help them feel a little bit less pain, great. But building trust, most of the time that happens because you listen to somebody, not because of skills that you have, although listening is a skill. So develop a relationship with people, listen to what they have to say, read between the lines a little bit on that. And when somebody says something, we all get frustrated about this, oh, my pain is a 15 out of 10. And all I've learned to say is, I bet it's really frustrating when people don't believe that you have the amount of pain that you have. I bet you get that a lot, don't you? And they're like, yeah, I do. And right away, now they don't have to escalate things. They can actually talk to me in more normal language, and they don't have to feel like they have to say, oh, I'm at a 12 out of 10 pain. Oh, he gets it. He understands. He's going to listen to me. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just listen to people.
Wow.
It's that
so glad you brought that up.
It's that simple, and it's that's everything, man. Everything. How many people, before they come to see you, how many people have they been telling, I'm in so much pain? How many people have told them, listen, I'm sure it's not that, but you'll be fine, it'll be okay, it'll go away, So to have that person being you, or the physical therapist in front of them, say, hey, listen, I know this is happening to you, but I completely understand. This is something that we need to take care of, and I'm going to help you do that. But just we acknowledge it. We ignore it because a lot of the times that might be out of fear. We don't know what to do with this, and we just kind of oh, we'll talk about it later, and we never get back to it. But that alone, if you don't acknowledge something right there on the spot, that's the best time to do it. And when you can have that conversation with that patient, like you said, that trust builds immensely. And once you have a person's trust, they will do anything that you say because they trust you. And if they trust you enough to stay with you long enough, they will get better.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Agreed.
Yeah. I have a client right now, actually, really, really tough history, trauma, abuse, all sorts of different stuff. And this is hard as a new grad, and it's hard in the insurance-based model that most people work in. But I have an hour with every single client that I work with, and she came in, and I did not touch her one time that whole visit. And all I did was talk to her, asked her about her past, listened to her, encouraged her, and recommended that she sees a mental health specialist. But it's like, I am also capable of listening to somebody, and it's amazing. She paid me my normal rate, and she never asked me at the end of that, like, why didn't you do any physical therapy? She looked at it and she's like, thank you for spending the time to actually care about me. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man, like, it's not just my hands-on skills or my exercises that people are paying me for. They're paying me for me. They're paying me to interact with them and help them. And they're paying me as a professional to be able to make the right decisions for them to move forward. And sometimes that means that you stop with all the nonsense and just listen to them, or you just take a step back and just say, you know what, today I don't think that we should do anything. I think that you just need to be listened to, and like maybe start to facilitate some movement or do some exercises while you're hearing somebody. But that was one of the most powerful visits I've ever had with somebody, and I didn't even do my profession, which was really interesting.
Some relaxation techniques and diaphragmatic breathing. Just breathe. Just calm down. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
all those techniques without even knowing you're doing them, because they're breathing already correctly.
Yeah. Incorrectly, yeah.
Man, that is profound, and it's everything, man. It's just that's like the major key. And like I said before, if we understood that as new grad PTs, what a relief. Like, wait a second, we don't have to know all these things. Like we don't have to know like the developmental milestones. Like we don't have to know outcome measures, MMTs. Yeah. I mean, there might be a little bit important, but isn't that really subjective? Like maybe I don't even have to. I just have to talk and listen. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I actually get that person to trust me and stay for as long as I need them to get them better, to use my skills that they don't care about, but are the things that they need to get better. It's like,
it's powerful. It's a game changer. I'll be honest. It's definitely a game changer.
It's incredible. I love how Greg talks about this. Like, we spend all this time developing our professional skills, and we get out of school and we think, I have to develop these skills even more. So it's, I spend thousands of dollars on dry needling certifications and manual therapy techniques and all these things that like don't make you any more marketable to your actual client. That's not to say that you shouldn't do those things, but you still need to understand that it's not just your techniques that people are paying you for. And also, like, where are you personally? Are you learning how to do, better interviewing, like active listening skills? Are you investing in yourself? Are you not investing in yourself personally? And those types of things are equally, if not more valuable, because there's such a gap between when we graduate, where we are professionally, skill-wise, and where we are personally, growth-wise.
It's everything. And I just want to make a quick point because I thought this was really cool and really amazing. So you mentioned Greg. So Greg taught creative smart success physical therapy. we're all actually all alumni, and as a matter of fact, everyone that's been on the show has been an alumni of his program, which is really cool. And basically everyone that you've seen already are doing pretty amazing things. That's a testament to what he's been able to create and help us through and with. So on that topic of personal development and understanding that you are the most important asset, and whatever is in your head is the most important thing that you have, the best investment you can make is in yourself. He understands that so well that myself and Joseph, my coworker and business partner, are being sent on a Tuesday, our busiest day at Renewal Rehab, to see Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank in Orlando, paid by our mentor and boss, Greg Top.
That's awesome.
GT is the shit. Sorry, I cussed, but he's game changer, life changer.
It's one thing, and this is something that's key, again, looking for that employer, and it's really hard to find those people that are like him, but they're out there. You just have to like really, really look and ask the right questions. But he is an example of someone that says something and also shows you that he actually applies it and does it and lives by it. So there's a key difference there. Someone can say they do all these things, but if you're not asking them to give you examples of how they've done it before, they might not be telling you the truth, or they might be skewing that truth quite a bit. So, but I just like that was massive to me, and I'm like, man, this is really something that he knows will get us to be more efficient, more effective, and build better relationships with our patients, help to build a better business with him, and help the company grow, because he understands that like one day of not treating patients, and they're still, mind you, they're still getting served at a very high level with the people that are going to be at the clinic that day, but that us developing our minds personally is far more important long term than treating at the clinic one day. And this is coming from someone that employs us, right?
Long-term game, and he's taking care of his employees.
Yeah.
He gets it. He gets it. He preaches, and now we get it.
Yeah. Two things that I thought of when you were talking. You know, Angela and I were talking about this. Like, we're new business owners, sole practitioners, and there's a level of loneliness that goes into that. I'll just be 100% honest. When I spend the vast majority of my day, I see like 25 clients a week. And so I spend a lot of my day by myself thinking about all the things that I need to do as a business owner. And not just in regards to your boss, but also in regards to your coworkers. Find, like, if you want to be in an insurance-based model, if you want to find your standard job right out of PT school, that's awesome. I'm not opposed to that. But find good coworkers that actually care about you too. And along with that, don't be afraid of developing friendships and network outside of your general area. So I'm in Denver. You guys are both in Florida, and I was talking to David Bailiff, earlier this week, who's in Arizona, and I have a side project with people in Tennessee and Milwaukee and Indiana, or in Ohio and in California, and those are some of the closest colleagues that I have, and they're thousands of miles away because I found my group, I found my tribe, and that's totally fine that you guys aren't in my clinic, because technology is incredible. So don't be afraid if you find yourself in that first job and you're like, oh my gosh, this doesn't have the mentorship that I'm looking for. Don't just settle for that. Find someone that is willing to mentor you outside of that immediate community, because it's just as good, if not better, types of mentorship.
I think that's what we all kind of did, right? Obviously nobody we're all separate. I didn't know anybody in SSPT, you know what I mean? And I made best friends. My best friends are in this group.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's amazing. They live in separate places, don't ever see them. I mean, here and there, but
Yeah.
I call them and I'm having a crap day and I'm better. I'm
Yeah.
better. You can ask for advice. You can ask for, what would you do in this situation? I can't tell you how many times that I've had to ask, well, what do you think about this patient? Should I just, like they're giving me the runaround, just drop them. And they're right. They're always right. There's always that other perspective. It's great to have. It really is.
And I think the vast majority of people, I'll say everybody in this type of a group, desires to be successful in
Yep.
in so many different ways. And there are a lot of groups that the general demeanor, the feeling that they have is they're pissed off at the profession, they're angry at the world, they don't see that there's any hope for it. And it's like, who would you rather surround yourself with? People who see the hope or people who see the crap? And you're gonna start to look like your best friends. You're gonna start to look like the people that you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with people that matter or that care, not that matter. Surround yourself with people that care, and you'll find that you care more, and you'll find that you are more productive, and you'll find that you're better at your job, and you'll find that all these things. Now all of a sudden, everybody starts to bring each other up because we don't complain. We just look at, how could it be better? How could we change it? How can we grow? How can we
The beauty of it is that this is something that we have complete control over. We decide who we surround ourselves with. Yeah, you might be stuck in a job that you because your coworkers suck. But like you mentioned, you have online communities like this one, like the one that we've created, like the one that Greg has created, the one that Paul has created. All these people who have created these communities of business owners, new grad PTs, pre-PTs, SPTs, who are just like willing to learn, number one, but also willing to like network and help each other out through whatever it is that they're going through. And there's no excuse to not figure out how you can get into that group, whether it's paid or non-paid, whether you have to pay for a mentor or not pay for a mentor. Find someone that's going to help you throughout your journey, and you'll avoid so many mistakes that you will eventually make. You still make mistakes, but it'll be less of them, and you'll learn things so much faster. And whatever it is that you want out of life, and whatever success means to you, that success will be given to you at a much faster rate than if you try to do it all on your own. Yeah. Again, whatever goes into your mind, whether positive or negative, energy is something that like people talk about, positive energy. It's a real thing. If you walk into a room and people are negative, you become negative immediately, or you start feeling pretty shitty. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you control the energy in your environment. If everyone around you has negative energy, bring that positive energy and destroy their crap energy, and try and hold that as much as possible. It is not easy because it happens in the clinic as well, but you have to make it happen because it's your entire life. Mm-hmm. Surround yourself around positive people who understand that things that are in their control are like I said, in their control, and those things you can change. The things that you can't control, learn from them and let them go. And that's a fact. That's just how it is, and how you have to
let it go, baby.
Let it go. So Kevin, what is the number one piece of advice that you can give to a new grad physical therapist right now?
If it's not the way that you thought that it could be, come up with a way to get there. That makes any sense.
I like that. No, that gives them a little thinking room.
It's good. I like it. Can you repeat it?
Yeah. If it's not the way that you thought it could be, find out a way to get there. Like I said, I would nearly quit PT after my first job because I was so fed up, because I thought that there was this thing that I was going to be able to do as a physical therapist, and it wasn't like it. And so I learned, and I went searching for that thing again, and I went to my next clinic, and it was better, but it was still not what I was looking for. And so I took the positives, and I was like, you know what, this is still not what I'm looking for. And
You just
so
keep climbing. Just keep climbing.
I refer to it as the funnel. It's like all you're doing is you're funneling down to the bottom where at some point you're going to land in this, you're going to land where you need to land as long as you're still going through the funnel. And just acknowledge the fact that sometimes you feel like you're just spinning in circles, and sometimes you are, but you're just slowly getting further and further and further down to where you need to be. And also look at the thing, look at your position, and if you're still able to learn something, if you're still able to grow in some way, it's definitely not lost. And if it's at that point where you find yourself where you're like, I'm like getting nowhere anymore with this, it's okay to move on. It's totally okay to move on to different things. I own my own business, and it's still not my dream job yet, because it's going to take a long time for me to implement all these things, and probably my dream will change. And so T0 is just getting closer and closer and closer to this thing that I want it to be. And I just have to be willing to look for alternative ways outside of, this stereotypical ways. If I can't find it somewhere, create it. That's fine.
Get a bigger vision for yourself.
Yeah.
Because, being an employee, yes, most new grads go that route. Obviously, we all did, and that's the basic mindset. But start to think of a bigger vision for yourself, because you're gonna find out real quick that's not what you want. Just like you did, Kevin. Just like I did, and just like Javi did. We were in it. We found better things for ourselves. And it's not easy. Success is never easy. But map it out. Create a strategy. And funnel. So you're telling new grads to funnel?
Yeah.
I think they've probably already done that. So
it sure as hell isn't easy, but it's very, very worth it. As long as you focus on the right things and you have a clear vision. So like you said, like things change as you're going through it. But always have like a general vision as to where you want to go. Because if you don't see anything like in your future, if you don't even think about what you want, it's very hard to get it.
Oh yeah.
It's very hard to get what you want when you don't know what it is.
Don't be that complacent person though. Like that's the worst thing you can be.
And the thing is, the complacency is something that we all feel at some point. We get comfortable. What happens is that feeling of comfort turns into a lot of regret later on, and resentment. And what happens is at that point you feel like it's too late to change it, and it's never too late. It's never too late, but it just makes it that much harder to get out of it. So, New Grad PTs, start this process, start this journey the right way. Like, this was an amazing conversation, man.
This was great. Yeah.
It was amazing. I'm really happy to have had you on today, man. It was really cool, and I'm sure we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, but, I have one more thought. Angel said it's okay to be an employee, and I 100% agree with that. Never have an employee mindset.
There you go.
That's I would say that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And
don't be thinking about the what's. What do I need to do? Think about the whys. Why do I need to do that?
And I mean, you look at, we are professionals, and we should not be looking at this as, I'm here to punch a clock. I'm here to do the bare minimum that I can do to get paid. Even if you want to work for a standard clinic the rest of your career, don't think like an employee.
Provide value.
Yeah, that's going to look different for every single person, but that's probably the biggest thing for me is, you have to think like a professional. You have to think like, an entrepreneur is not the word that's not the opposite of an employee, but
bring satisfaction to your life.
Yeah, you got to think like an owner. And You got to own your profession, own the skills that you have, own the relationships that you have with your clients, and then you're going to have way more satisfaction even if you are an employee because you're owning the rest of it.
I love that. Think like an owner, even if you are an employee. And the fact is that when you start thinking that way, when you think about like, hey, how does this person that I'm employed by thinks? Now, maybe you don't want to open up your business. Maybe that's not a thing that you want, but you would like to make some more cash. You want to make some more income. So now if you're thinking like a business owner, now you can learn those skills that business owners need to have to make more money. Now you've learned those skills, you can help that business owner with those things, and essentially then you can ask for that raise that you always want.
Because you provided the value.
Provided the value, and that couldn't have come if you weren't thinking like a business owner. Now again, it doesn't mean you have to become one.
You can't be a bare minimum basic biz.
To them.
Yeah.
So I think that's key.
Yeah. This was awesome, Kevin. You're great. This was so beneficial, I believe, to the new grads and to even like us.
For us, yeah.
Anyone.
I'm fired up now. So
good luck sleeping.
Yeah. Well, it's only 9 o'clock or 8:45.
Well, it's 11 here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's it for me. I have a nice drive home that I can process things, and then we'll be totally fine to fall asleep.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'm more than willing to like talk to anybody who has questions or who wants to.
Yeah.
Everybody
throw questions so much Kevin's information. Way.
What?
I said everybody throw questions Kevin's way. He's the dude. He's the man.
I don't know about that, but we can all struggle together.
Don't be modest. Don't be modest. let me throw some shine on you. Come on.
Thank you.
Sprinkle some little sparkles on you.
Yeah, but for real, anyone that has any questions for Kevin and his story and what he's going through now, his journey, and you just want to find out more about him, obviously he's an amazing guy. Go ahead and contact him. I'm sure he doesn't mind if you friend request him and send him like 100 messages on Messenger. I'm sure he's super cool with that.
Everybody loves that.
Totally
for real. Yeah, just hit him up. As you know, like we're here for you. Kevin's here for you. Anyone that we interview obviously wants to help you out, so they're open to helping you and answering questions that you may have. So again, man, thanks a lot.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. We'll definitely chat soon, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
All right.